Welcome to Hearts Wine from Heart's Distractions. I'm your host, Alicia Minor Gaines, here to pour a big old glass of the messy, complicated, but also beautiful thing we call love. And today, we're diving into a topic that's as deadly as it is silent. No, I'm not talking about questionable takeout. I'm talking about the killer of relationships. Lack of communication. Yes, I said it. Lack of communication. You know, whether you're in the honeymoon phase or celebrating 25 years of wedded, mostly bliss, not communicating is a trap we all fall into. And today, we're exposing why staying silent is dangerous. And, more importantly, how to stop it before it wrecks your love life. So buckle up because this one's going to be real, raw, and a little controversial. Just how we like it. I'm your relationship expert with over 20 years of professional and personal experience. Now I get to be your host in addition to being a wife, a mother, a marriage and family therapist. If you don't know, I'm someone who's passionate about helping people navigate the ups and downs of love and relationships. I understand relationships on a whole new level, on all levels, while also recognizing and calling out the things that most don't acknowledge, including family, friendships, and how mental health plays out in relationships. I'm also a relationship coach, an entrepreneur, and the author of Distractions of the Heart, a poetry book all about the messy, beautiful emotions and relationships we experience and carry in our hearts. And when I'm not having deep conversations or helping others, you might catch me mixing up a drink or two. I'm a bit of a mixologist at heart and enjoy coming up with new flavored cocktails. Yes, I said flavored cocktails. So grab your glass of wine, get comfortable, and let's talk about all the heart's distractions that cause your heart to whine in your favorite relationship podcast. All right, let me paint you a picture. You and your partner have been arguing about the same thing for days. Let's say dishes. Classic, right? You're thinking, if they love me, they would just know I just needed help in the kitchen. I just needed help cleaning up, right? Meanwhile, they're thinking, if they just ask for help instead of giving me that if looks could kill face, I'd totally pitch in. So what happens in this case? Typically, both partners go silent. But instead of peace, which is what we want, what do they get? Resentment. And nothing makes dishes pile up faster than resentment. Trust me. Here's the thing. Silence might feel safer. You avoid a fight. You avoid hurt feelings, or so you think. But that silence, it's a bleeding ground for assumptions, insecurities, and eventually a whole lot of, how did we get here? Tears. If you're not talking about it, you're not fixing it. And spoiler alert, unspoken feelings don't magically go away. They just fester. Again, they don't magically go away. That means they don't disappear. Okay. Want a stat to back that up? Here's one. A 2013 study in the Journal of Marriage and Family Therapy found that communication is one of the top predictors of relationship satisfaction. The couples who communicated openly, happier, more connected, and let's be honest, probably getting lucky more often. Just saying. So I think you might want to start communicating if you want to feel lucky or get lucky. So why do we suck at talking about our feelings? Let's break down some of the greatest hits of bad communication. Ooh, no, she didn't say that. Yes, I did say that. Here's the first one. Assumptions. Oh, the classic. If they love me, they just know. Look, we're not dating mind readers here. And if you are, congrats. But most of us, mere mortals, need words. Stop assuming your partner can guess what's in your head. Unless you're leaving post-it notes everywhere around the house, they're not going to know you're upset about them not texting you good morning, or planning date night, or cooking dinner after you just got off a long day of work at the office, which might actually be at home. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Those who work from home, especially us therapists that do telehealth. Just throwing it out there. Fear of conflict. How many of you out there avoid hard conversations because you're scared it'll turn into World War III? Raise your hands. I know y'all there. Okay. Yeah, the same here though. But avoiding conflict doesn't prevent the fight. It just delays it. And trust me, fights get uglier with time. It's like emotional leftovers. The longer you leave it, the worse it smells. Passive aggressiveness. You ever slam the cabinet just hard enough to make a point? I know I have. Or send a text like, it's fine, when it's definitely not fine. Oh, passive aggressiveness is a crowd favorite, but it's toxic. Your partner isn't a code breaker. Just say what's on your mind. Trust me, they'll get it. Interrupting. We all know that one person who listens just long enough to plan their comeback. If you're mentally rehearsing your response while someone's talking, you're not actually listening. And honestly, cutting someone off is like saying, I care more about right than understanding you. Definitely not a good look if you want to keep that relationship. I'm just saying. Using absolutes. Ever said, you always do this, or you never listen to me? Absolutes are like verbal Molotov cocktails. They escalate conflict and make the other person defensive. Plus, they're rarely true. Nobody always forgets to do the dishes. Except maybe college roommates. Ooh, I think my teenager's gonna find out about that one when she gets to college this year. Avoiding vulnerability. Saying, I'm hurt or I need help feels like walking into a lion's den covered in barbecue sauce. But vulnerability is the cornerstone of real connection. If you avoid it, you're just building walls instead of bridges. And nobody gets to the other side that way. Stonewalling. You know when someone just shuts down completely? They're like suddenly a robot who's turned off for maintenance. Stonewalling isn't silent treatment. It's emotional withdrawal. And it's basically kryptonite for effective communication. So yeah, you don't want to stonewall your partner. You don't want to remove yourself completely from the conversation and just shut down. They're not going to understand that. Overgeneralizing. This always happens when we talk about money. Sound familiar? When we exaggerate patterns, We make the issue bigger than it actually is. It's like turning a molehill into Mount Everest. Nobody's climbing out of that conversation gracefully. Overloading the conversation. You start with one issue and suddenly you're airing grievances from 3 years ago. Oh, and another thing, isn't productive. It's exhausting. Focus on one topic at a time. It's a conversation, not a roast session. And trust me, your partner is going to check out at some point, and your communication is done if that happens. Maybe even your relationship. Not following through. Nothing kills trust faster than empty promises. If you say, I'll work on that, but never do, it's like writing a check your communication can't cash. Keep your word or don't make promises at all. Talking over emotions. Ever tried to logic someone out of being upset? Spoiler, it doesn't work. Feelings aren't spreadsheets. They can't just be calculated away. Sometimes people need empathy, not solutions. So stop trying to solve it and fix it. How about you just show up and empathize and maybe even throw a little bit of validation in there? And the last one, forgetting to apologize. Look, we all mess up. But if you mess up and never say, I'm sorry, you're just doubling down on the damage. A real apology is a relationship repair kit. Use it liberally. Trust. It makes your relationship better if you do. Let's get real for a second. Poor communication doesn't just cause petty arguments. It destroys intimacy. You stop feeling seen, heard, or even valued. Suddenly, the person who used to be your best friend feels like a stranger. And sometimes even lonely in the relationship. But worse, it's not just you two who suffers. The ripple effects of poor communication spreads outwards, hitting every part of your life. It hits your kids, your friendships, family relationships, even your job. Yes, I said even your job. Ever tried focusing at work after a blowout fight where nothing got resolved? Yeah, not cute, right? But let's break this down even further for how the impact can play out in each of these areas, starting with intimacy in your own relationship. When communication breaks down, so does trust and vulnerability. Imagine confiding something deeply personal to your partner, only for them to dismiss or misinterpret it. Over time, you stop sharing altogether. The result? Emotional walls go up and intimacy takes a nosedive, meaning it plummets. Okay. Physical intimacy often follows because it's hard to feel close to someone you don't feel emotionally safe with. That's important. Your partner has to feel safe. So, instead of saying, I feel unimportant when you scroll on your phone during dinner, you bottle it up. Days or weeks later, it explodes into, you never cared about me. Now your partner feels attacked. And instead of resolving the issue, both of you retreat further into your corners. Who is that helping? Definitely not your relationship. Kids are like sponges. They pick up on tension even if no one says a word. Poor communication between parents creates an unstable emotional environment. Children may mimic those patterns, learning to avoid conflict, lash out, or shut down instead of expressing themselves. And this won't be good for their relationships moving forward. So imagine parents constantly arguing but never resolving issues. A child might interpret this as conflict is scary and I should avoid it at all costs. Later in life, that child might struggle to set boundaries or communicate in their own relationships, perpetuating the cycle that y'all showed them, that y'all modeled for them, that y'all set the example for. Don't you want better for your kids? I know I do. Friendships, they thrive on mutual understanding and communication. When you're stuck in poor communication habits, it's easy to let friendships slip away. Maybe you don't express gratitude or fail to address conflicts when they arise. Over time, resentment or distance builds. Let's say you're upset a friend didn't invite you to their party. Instead of addressing it, you withdraw, assuming they don't value your friendship. They turn in, sense the distance, but have no idea why. Suddenly, you're too busy to hang out, and the friendship fades without either of you addressing the root issue. How many of you have failed friendships as a result of this? Or something similar? Poor communication at home doesn't stay at home. It follows you into the office, like I said, at your job, clouding your focus and impacting how you interact with colleagues. Miscommunication at work can lead to missed deadlines, unnecessary conflicts, or even job loss. And in this economy, you definitely do not want to be losing your job. But let's say you have a blowout argument with your partner in the morning and show up to work stressed. When a coworker offers maybe, let's say, some feedback on your project, you snap at them. Now your coworker feels disrespected and the collaboration suffers. One misstep can spiral into strained workplace relationships, and now the morale between you and that coworker is extremely poor. And it might trickle down into other coworkers' relationship spaces as well, just by them seeing that play out. Family dynamics are tricky, and poor communication only adds fuel to the fire. Misunderstandings between siblings, parents, or extended family members can snowball into long-term estrangement. Let's say a mother and daughter clash over differing opinions, but never truly discuss their feelings. The daughter feels criticized, the mother feels unappreciated, and both tend to pull back. Over time, family gatherings become tense, and the once close bond fades. And now you're infecting the entire family circle because of poor communication. The real tragedy, poor communication doesn't just strain relationships, it erodes your support system. Whether it's your partner, your friends, or your colleagues, the ripple effects make it harder to build and maintain connections. And without those connections, life feels lonelier, more stressful, and ultimately, I would say, less fulfilling. But here's the kicker. Most relationships don't end because of the impact in these areas, along with cheating, money issues, or even big fights. They end because people stop feeling connected. And when you're not communicating, you're not connecting. I'm going to say it again. And when you're not communicating, you're not connecting. Period. As the young folks say. But here's the good news. It doesn't have to be this way. Communication is a skill, not a fixed trait. And just like any skill, you can learn and improve. The ripple effects of good communication are just as powerful, but in all the right ways. So let's talk about how you can build better communication habits in your dating and relationship experiences. Okay, enough doom and gloom. Let's talk solutions, shall we? Because I think at this point we might need them. How do we fix this? How do we make talking, even about the tough stuff, easier? Be intentional. Schedule a weekly State of the Union with your partner. It's not sexy, but it works. Pick a time to check in. No phones, no distractions, and just simply talk. Talk to each other. What's going well? You talk to each other by asking, what's going well? What's been hard? Trust me, this can save you from those, why didn't you tell me sooner moments. Use I statements. Instead of, you never listen to me. Try, I feel unheard when you look at your phone during our conversations. It feels disrespectful to me. Sounds cheesy, but it's a game changer. You're not blaming, you're sharing. Again, you're not blaming, you're sharing. Active listening. You'd be shocked how often we don't actually hear each other. Next time your partner's talking, paraphrase what they said. It'll feel awkward at first, but they'll feel seen and understood. And that's the magic. Address issues early. Don't let things fester. If something's bothering you, bring it up gently. A tiny splinter is easier to remove than a full-blown infected wound. Sorry for the gross metaphor, but y'all kind of needed to get the point here. So I threw it out there for y'all. Validate feelings. Oh my God, if so many couples did this, I'm telling you, it would be a game changer. You don't have to agree with someone to validate their feelings. A simple, I get why you'd feel that way, can diffuse tension instantly. It shows empathy and makes the other person feel heard by you. Your partner says, I'm so stressed about work. Instead of brushing it off with, it'll be fine. Try instead, that sounds really overwhelming. Is there anything I can do to help? That sounded really easy, right? Trust me, it is. Especially with practice. Speaking of practice emotional regulation. Communication goes off the rails when emotions run high. Learn to take a pause. If you feel yourself getting defensive or angry, step away. Take a breath and come back when you're calm. Instead of yelling, you always do this. During an argument, say, I need a moment to gather my thoughts so I can explain how I'm feeling when I come back to this conversation. Ooh, that was a good one, right? We all gonna be using that one later. Ask open-ended questions. Instead of questions that lead to one-word answers, ask ones that invite deeper conversation. It encourages your partner to share more and helps you understand their perspective. Replace the, did you have a good day? With, what was the best part of your day? Or, What's been on your mind lately? Ooh, that sounded really nice, right? Made me want to tune into a conversation. Set communication goals. Agree on shared goals for how you want to communicate. Maybe it's no yelling during arguments, or maybe it's checking in with each other every day. Having a clear vision keeps you both accountable. We'll both try to focus on solutions instead of blame during disagreements. Now, don't that sound nice? Be mindful of timing. Sometimes it's not what you say, but when you say it. Don't start a heavy conversation when someone's stressed, tired, rushing out the door, or watching their favorite TV show. Choose a moment when both of you can be fully present. Instead of saying, "We need to talk about finances" right before bed, try, "Can we set aside time tomorrow to go over the budget together?" I think if more couples did that, they might actually do just that. Sit down and do their budget together. But also, don't make assumptions. Ask for clarification before jumping to conclusions. So much conflict, I promise you, comes from assuming you know what someone else is thinking or feeling. Spoiler, you probably don't. Instead of assuming, "They're mad at me because they're quiet." Ask, "You seem a little bit quiet today. Everything okay?" But do it with less attitude, right? Do it with empathy and compassion. Celebrate progress, not perfection. Changing communication habits is hard. Acknowledge the effort both of you are putting in, even if things aren't perfect yet. Positive reinforcement goes a long way. "Hey, I really appreciated how you listened during our conversation earlier. It made me feel really supported." I think that's something that can be useful to say in those conversations, in those moments. But you know what's something that really works for me is being able to use humor to lighten the mood. Not every conversation has to be serious. A little laughter can make even tough topics easier to discuss. Just make sure it's not at someone's expense. If a disagreement starts to escalate, you might say, "Okay, we're clearly passionate about this. Should we arm wrestle to settle it?" I think that might get a good laugh out of your partner. I know it got a good laugh out of me. I hope it got a good laugh for y'all. And keep learning together. Books, podcasts, therapy. There are so many resources to improve communication. Like your new favorite relationship podcast, Hearts Wine from Harsh Distraction. Okay. Explore them as a team. It not only gives you tools, but also shows that you're both invested in growing together. We could check out that communication workshop next month. It might be fun to learn some new strategies. Wouldn't that be good to say to your partner if you're trying to grow together? If you're trying to show that you're willing to learn with them? I think so. Remember, good communication is a habit, not a one-time fix. The more you practice, the easier it gets. And when you build these habits, the ripple effects of good communication can transform every part of your life. It can literally transform your relationship. Here's what I want you to take away. Communication isn't just about solving problems. It's about building a connection. I'm going to say it again. It's about building a connection. Every time you open up, whether it's about your dreams, your fears, or even who's doing the dishes, you're strengthening your relationship. And yes, it is scary to be vulnerable. But you know what's scarier? Losing the person you love because you were too afraid to talk. Think I'll leave that as food for thought as I take a sip of my wine. All right, that's a wrap on today's episode of Silent but Deadly: How Not Communicating Could End Your Relationship on your favorite new relationship podcast, Heart's Wine from Heart's Distractions. If this hits home for you or someone you know, do me a favor. Share it with your partner and share it with those that you know. Spark that conversation. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Heart's Wine from Heart's Distractions, for exclusive episodes and content. Check out our website, www.aliciasdistractions.com, which is in the description, for more relationship resources. And follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook for daily tips and relatable laughs. Remember, love is messy, but it's worth the work. Until next time, cheers to love, growth, and a little less silence. Cheers.